Coming up on today's edition of the Art Marketing Podcast, the January Reset. One metric, one goal, one plan. Specifically, it's January. Everyone's planning. Let's cut through the noise and focus on the one number that actually matters. So as I'm recording this a little bit late to the party, it's January 17th, 2026. And, I've been doing this podcast for a long time. I was just thinking about how long of a time it is a long time. And, one of the dangers, like when you're creating content, and one of the things that happens again and again and again, and I have to constantly relearn this lesson, is you'll cover a topic on the podcast, whatever it might be, email marketing or Facebook marketing or Facebook ads or pricing or whatever. And you're like, okay, cool. I've covered that topic. I don't need to cover that topic ever again because I've done it, right? It's done. We're good. And what I realize is because I have all these workshops with my customers and I get to interact with them, there are things that I thought I taught them 6 months ago, but it did not hold. They don't remember it. They're like, can you teach me again? And it's one of these cognitive biases that you fall into. I'm not sure which one it is. I got to go look it up. Where because you think you've done a thing, you're done. And the reality is that the only way that these lessons settle in is through repetition all the time. Here's what you got to do. 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 The same time. Boom, 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 boom. So this is me circling back to something that I've talked about a little bit in the past, but it's so important, and it is particularly important, particularly impactful at the beginning of the year. Okay. And so I want to just get into this. Okay. Forget followers, forget likes, forget email subscribers, forget website traffic. It's January. It's planning season. I want to talk about the one metric that rules them all. The number of new customers acquired per year. Okay? Per year. And I've said for years in this podcast that I find it to be essentially like the number one predictive metric in your business of the business's future revenue potential. The number of new customers acquired per year. If that number is healthy, okay, if that number is growing year after year, you are going to blink. You're going to wake up. It's going to be 10 years down the line, and you are going to have an extremely healthy business. And why is that? Because the art business is a collector-driven business. It just is. When you look at a number of these healthy businesses or my customers that are absolutely crushing it, I watch their careers evolve, where they're just starting out, they're starting to get sales, and it's that grind when you just get starting, because all day long you're just after new. I need to get my art in front of new eyeballs, new people, new attention, right? That's the hardest part. That's the grind. And what I see as their businesses evolve over the years is 4 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 6, 7, the percentage of revenue the business generates goes from being all new to 5% collectors, 10% collectors, 15, 25, 30, 45, 50, 60, sometimes 70, 80% of the business, of the revenue the business generates in a year comes completely from collectors. If you get up to the rarefied atmosphere, the goal when you're in demand is you come out with an entire new collection. You tell your collectors first, they buy 95% of it, and 5% gets to go to the public. That is where we want to get to. That is the eventual goal. And however you climb that ladder, it is just so critical. We go from stranger to audience to customer to repeat buyer to collector. That is the ladder. That is the ladder with the holy grail at the end of it being a collector. And guess what? You can't climb the collector. You can't climb to the collector level until someone buys once, until someone makes that first initial purchase, right? And the supporting data on this is crazy, but no one ever talks about it. And obviously they never teach this stuff in art school. And your guys' businesses are hybrid businesses for most of you, or they should be, right? It should be, yes, you have a website. Yes, your art is on the website. Yes, you are a traditional e-commerce merchant in that capacity, but yes, you're also an in-person salesperson. Whether you're doing fairs or shows or not is irrelevant. You're attempting to do as much in-person business where you're talking to a customer, showing them the art in the real physical world, local business, right? So you're kind of hybrids. Most of the data out there is really, really strong for e-commerce, but the data is so like just absolutely critical clear. So I cherry picked a bunch of quotes just to help my argument. And I quote, repeat customers generate 300% more revenue than first-time buyers and account for nearly half of all sales. But every repeat customer started as a new customer. Number two, only 27% of first-time buyers ever return. That means to build 100 collectors, you need to acquire roughly 400 customers first. New customer acquisition isn't just a metric, it's the metric that predicts everything else. And again, these businesses are a little bit different, but you've got to acquire that first new customer, right? And as we talk about a new customer, this is the beautiful thing. And this is the thing that gets so hung up and lost in the details, and everybody gets twisted. Okay? What is a new customer? Any transaction, any size, any side of your business, any side of your business. Let me explain. Sold a painting, obviously, new customer, awesome. Sold a $35 print, awesome, new customer. Sold $1.50 of stickers, awesome, new customer. Got hired for a commission, awesome, new customer. What if you booked a portrait session? Guess what? New customer. You signed somebody up for your painting workshop. Guess what? Customer. Took someone on a photo tour in Yellowstone. Look at the beautiful bison. Guess what? Customer. Taught a drawing class. Every student equals a customer. If money changed hands, they're a customer. They're in your ecosystem now. They've raised their hand and said, I trust you enough to transact commerce, to pay you. Okay, that's a customer. And the opportunity in all of that is like the portrait client for your portrait business, because you're a photographer, could become a collector of your personal work. The workshop student could. The photo tour participant could. All of those equate to customers. And so every customer, regardless of what door they came through, is a potential collector. And that is how we have to think about it. Our job is to get a potential collector and just push them down the line. And I think it's really, really important to mention too, because I've talked to so many of you guys over the years, like a lot of you guys have multiple revenue source businesses, kind of what I just alluded to. Maybe you're a painter, maybe you teach painting, maybe you're a photographer, maybe you teach photography, maybe you're doing photo tours or in any capacity therein. But guess what? I don't care if the day job is babysitting or dog walking. If they're paying you for that, they are customers. They're in your ecosystem. It's really, really important to understand that. Part two, the lineup problem. Okay, you guys have heard me talk about the lineup, but man, is this so important. I've got some really, really good episodes on this in the past. If you're new to this podcast, I recommend you go back in time and you look at some of the other ones. But let's talk about the lineup. What do most artists do wrong? What do most photographers do wrong? Their product lineup consists only of wall art, only of a big, beautiful piece or a medium-sized piece or a small, beautiful piece of art that hangs on a wall. Okay. The result for those businesses, maybe they acquire 7 to 8 customers a year if it's a painter and they're selling more expensive pieces. Or maybe it's 10 to 15 to 25 photos sell a year if you're a photographer and you're just getting going. That's a problem. We need to fix that. Okay. When you have a proper lineup, all right, and I've covered this in depth about what you need to have in your lineup, what the pricing looks like. You can go from acquiring 7 to 8 to 10 customers a year to 70 customers a year. It is the exact same effort on your part, okay? Meaning you're doing the outbound marketing, you're getting your work out there, you're doing everything that you can, both from a digital and in the real world perspective. And instead of acquiring 7 to 10 customers a year, when you get your lineup in order, you can go to acquiring 70, okay? The collector pipeline, okay? It is what we need to talk about. And you guys, it matters so much. 2 more quotes, and I quote, here's the hard truth. 75% of people who ever buy from you do so within 24 hours of discovering you. After 12 days, 90% of your window is gone. These are, again, generic quotes, but they're important lessons. The nuance is in your business that changes a little bit because it's art and you get bonded to it. It's not like it's a butcher shop, okay? And I'm making a snap decision right there. But those are the lessons that we need to learn. Like, you can't just have wall art in your lineup. That person at your booth, that browser on your website, if you don't have something at their price point right now, statistically, they're not coming back. 70% of e-commerce carts are abandoned, and 80 to 90% of those people never return. And the reason that a lot of times they abandon is not because they don't appreciate you and your creativity. It's because your prices start at $499, or your only thing in your lineup is wall art. A lot of friction in a purchase of a wall art. Gotta measure, gotta ask my significant other, gotta think about it. Can you Photoshop it in the room? All these things that kill a transaction. Versus if you've got the small stuff, if you have something, stickers, keychains, coffee mugs, I don't care what it is, right? I always say that. I don't care what it is. You do you, but there's got to be an impulse buy. There's got to be something easy to purchase, okay? Because if you do that, the number of new customers you acquire per year is going to significantly increase. And you guys, as we look at where we are right now, view back on 2025, looking towards 2026, the only competition that your business has in 2026 is against what your business did in 2025. You're not competing against other artists. You're not competing against a shaky economy. You're not competing against a real estate market that's in the dumps. I'm going to talk about that a bunch in the future, by the way, because I think it's turning. Very, very important. Robust real estate market equals robust art sales. Anyway, you're not competing against any of that. It doesn't matter. Okay? You are only competing against your 2025 self. So what, excuse me. So what is the 2026 challenge? This is what I want for every single solitary one of you. I want you to 10x the number of new customers you acquire in 2026. I want you to take the number that you had in 2025. I want you to multiply it by 10, and that is what I want your number to be in 2026, okay? It's not working 10 times harder. It's just 10xing the number. And, new customers equal most indirectly indicative of the future revenue potential of the business. Is why it's so important. And let's throw some math out there because it's important. And let's do, call it some 5-year, 7-year, 10-year math. 2025, you just got started. It was a down year. Things were economically tough, all kinds of political nonsense going on. How'd you do? You acquired 7 new customers. So your cumulative base of customers is 7. But you've listened to this podcast episode, and you are now going to take this 10x framework, and you're going to say, okay, I'm hitting 10x every year, no matter what. So in 2026, you're going to acquire 70 new customers. You got your lineup dialed in. At the end of 2026, your cumulative base of customers is going to be 77. 2027. Now I'm looking at my math. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is just how it compound at that rate. 5-year total. Okay. So on and so forth. You do the math. The 5-year total, 380 customer relationships. 7-year total, 760 customer relationships. 10-year total, 1,500 plus customer relationships, right? And the collector multiplier, if you like, if you increase customer retention by just 5%, it increases profits by 25 to 95%, according to Bain & Company. So it's like, even if you have 1,500 at that 10-year point, and 20% of those 1,500 customers become repeat buyers, that's 300 collectors purchasing year after year. That's a sustainable art business. 300 collectors? You can do that. That's 20% of the 1,500 customers that you've got. It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. The mass on this just compound this golden ladder, right? Where the holy grail is you get a collector. And it requires like a paradigm shift, a different way of thinking about your business. Because what do most artists do, right? 100% of their effort is chasing strangers, new eyeballs, new heads, new social media followers, new emails, new. All of my effort, right? All of the time, energy, and effort, everything that I learn in marketing, everything that I'm attempting to use AI to leverage, it's just about getting new. Let me tell you, that is exhausting. You have to do it. It's very important. It's exhausting. It is also extremely low conversion rate activity, low conversion rate behavior. So what does a smart artist do? Especially as the business grows. They spend 50% on acquisition and they spend 50% on nurturing. It's sustainable. I hate that word. It's compounding. It's compounding. Okay. Nothing in business is sustainable. It's not a bad word per se. But if you adjust your split to not just constantly going after the new, and you spend some time focusing on taking care of those folks that have already purchased, everything starts changing. You start getting the compounding. What does that look like? Again, I've talked about this a ton on the podcast. You need to email your purchasers. You need to get them following you. You need to send them Christmas cards. You need to follow them on socials. You should like and comment their posts. Send them text messages. All this type of marketing that can be thought of as nurturing your warm leads. In this case, your customers. It's not even leads. I shouldn't say leads. Your customers that have purchased already. It's an entirely different modality. Modality is not the wrong way. An entirely different marketing strategy is really what it is, right? Because you will talk to your collectors differently than you will talk to somebody that you just met. It's like having a conversation with an old friend, right? So you've got to be doing all of these things, right? You've got to be doing these things all the time. Like the data out there on repeat e-commerce transactions is like it's 48% of all e-commerce transactions. And again, macro trends, but still, it's just important to understand how big of a deal this is. You know, selling, depending on who you talk to, selling to an existing customer is 5 to 10 times easier than new acquisition. 5 to 10 times. That's massive. Okay. But you can't tend a garden you've never planted. 7 customers is in the garden. 70 is. 700 is an orchard. 5,000 is a couple of different orchards. And I want you to have an orchard. You know, I was thinking back as I was making my notes for this one, you know, is it 2 episodes back or 3 episodes back? I interviewed Terry Salve. It was a great episode. And by the way, she hit her yearly goal, best year she's ever had, 2025, over 300K in revenue. And she wasn't sending Christmas cards to collectors. Oh my God. My heart broke. My heart broke, and is incredibly optimistic in equal measure. And I think she started doing it. I got to follow up with it. But even an artist like her at 300,000 in total sales, or over 300,000, 325 or 330, probably whatever she hit, was not doing this nurturing marketing, this taking care of your new customers and attempting to turn them into collectors. So it breaks my heart that she wasn't doing that, but I'm so optimistic for her because now I know she does do that. If she starts shifting some of her focus to how am I going to take care of my collectors, there is massive revenue opportunity. And in Terry's case, let's say she's got a big Christmas card list and she's an artist and she has a very nuanced sense of style. So she can't do the, you know, cheap click it and print it Christmas card. She wants to do a high-end one. So she spends $300 on Christmas cards to send a personalized Christmas card with a handwritten note on the back to every single solitary one of those customers. All the stamps, all the time, all the energy, and all the effort. Let's just say it's $300. To her business, that's probably worth $30,000 or $40,000 year one. It just is, because she's got that big collector list and she just needs to do the nurturing. So if you guys can establish this in your business now with the number of new customers that you've acquired, and especially the number is smaller, it just becomes so much easier, you guys, so much easier. And this is this whole notion of number of new customers acquired per year is the most important metric. This whole notion of all of the marketing techniques and tactics and strategy that you devote to this segment of your business, as opposed to just new. It's how you treat your business like a real business. It's how every business treats their business if they're concerned about the bottom line, right? So let's do some forecasting. Let's do some planning. Real businesses means forecasting. It means planning. It means working against a plan instead of pie in the sky. I'm going to do this with you right now. Your brain will hate it. I hate it. I had to do this week for Art Storefronts. I was squirming around in a chair because planning sucks. But you guys are too good at this. You spend too much time on these creations, your time, energy, effort, finances, your soul into these creations, okay? You spend too much time on this to treat it like a hobby. If you want a hobby, pick up gardening. Let's treat this like a business. And this is a really, really simple 3-step exercise, okay? Number 1, go back to 2025. Count every new customer, every transaction. $1, $3,500, $35, $3.5 million, doesn't matter. Portrait clients, workshop students, tour participants, art buyers of all stripes, all of it, okay? Get that number. Get the receipts out of shoe boxes. Search your Venmo, your PayPal. If you have an e-commerce website, go through all of your invoices. It shouldn't take you that long. And get to something that you think is an accurate reflection of the number of new customers you acquired last year. Multiplied by 10. We now have a 2026 goal, okay? Divide that thing by 12. We now have a monthly target. Example, 2025, 7 customers. 2026 multiplied by 10 is going to turn that into 70 customers. You now have a monthly target of 6 new customers every single solitary month. No more, how did January go? I hope to sell some stuff. Maybe February will get better. No. I need 6 new customers this month. That means I have 2 to go. What am I going to do to acquire them? It doesn't matter at what price they buy. This stupid, simple little 3-step exercise and you having a mental goal of 6 new customers a month at any price point, Peter Drucker, and I didn't even need to write this one down. What gets measured gets managed. And it's so true. He's a famous management consultant. I read some of his books. Anyway, very, very important to do this exercise. No one does this exercise. It's all just pie in the sky. I hope things go well. Last month was good. This is so simple to do. It is absolutely so simple to do. How many new customers did you acquire last year? Multiply it by 10, divide it by 12, put it on a Post-it note, okay? Send yourself the daily reminder. Put it on your calendar, okay? Work against a monthly target. Don't have a lineup that facilitates you acquiring that number of customers? Then get a lineup that facilitates you getting that number of customers. Need help? We can help you with that, obviously. You're going to go somewhere else and do it. I don't care how you do it, as long as you have a lineup that can facilitate hitting your goal of new customers a month. This is just maths. This is how you treat an art business, not as a hobby, but like an actual business, okay? Thankfully for you, I will also include in the show notes an AI planning shortcut for this whole thing, okay? And I'll give you a prompt that you can paste into Art Helper AI if you like, or ChatGPT, or Grok, or Gemini, or Claude, or whatever you use, okay? And you can just very simply say, and I quote, but again, I'll throw this prompt into the chat, but it'll make it easy. I'm an artist planning my 2026 business growth. Help me create a customer acquisition plan. Here's my data from 2025. The number of new customers acquired was 7. Here's my current product lineup. List what you sell. Wall art, prints, cards, originals, services, whatever. Talk about your average price points. List your price ranges. How you currently get customers. Social media, art fairs, galleries, websites, word of mouth, whatever. Based on the 10X framework. And don't worry, again, this is all in the prompt. I'm just kind of highlighting it. Calculate my 2026 goal. Okay. Break it down into monthly targets. Identify gaps in my lineup that could help me acquire more customers at different price points. Suggest 3 to 5 specific actions I can take each month to hit my target. Create a simple tracking system I can use. Keep it practical. Anything specific to my art business. I want to treat this like a real business, not a hobby. Simple. Go into the show notes. Copy that prompt. Throw it into your AI du jour. Okay? Answer its questions, and let's get going. Let's get going. If you guys focus on this, if you make this a goal of 2026, if you have a known number of new customers that you need to acquire per year, okay, per year, everything is going to change. You're going to focus on a goal, okay, not some pie in the sky. I hope to acquire more customers. I hope my business does this. This makes it actionable and breaks it down into monthly targets, okay? You do this for 5 to 10 years, you'll have hundreds of collectors. A real sustainable art business, not a hobby. One metric. New customers acquired per year. Your competition. Last year's you. It doesn't matter what's going on outside of that. You're against last year's you. Your goal? 10X your 2025 number. The how? Fix your lineup. Tend your garden. Work the plan. and listen to this podcast as I continue to dispense suboptimal wisdom from a life spent in the trenches. On that note, leave me a review on the podcast, by the way. I've got reviews goals. I'm not hitting them. If you're on Spotify, it's so easy. All you have to do is just like and comment. If you're on iTunes, you could leave me a review. If you're on YouTube, you could leave me a comment. Leave me a review. I need one. But seriously, I appreciate your attention. Happy New Year, you guys. Let's rock 2026, and I can't wait to see what unfolds. On that note, thanks for listening. And as always, have a great day.